This is the second part of my podcast with Thomas, Stefan, and Alex, which I did in Vienna almost a year ago. If you have not watched the first part of the podcast, you can find it here on the screen, although you don't need to have watched it in order to keep up with what we talk about in this episode. There are two separate episodes. The first one was done with Thomas and Stefan, who each have their own AI startups and one which they run together. And we basically talked about AI, what will happen to the world, and some predictions that we could possibly make, as well as some business things, but not like in this episode. This episode includes Thomas, who also appeared in the previous episode, and this is also the reason why you won't see an introduction of Thomas in this episode, and Alex, who is also in the common startup that Thomas and Stefan are in. In this episode, Thomas and Alex shared their experience running an AI startup in Europe, how they are scaling it, how they are managing it, advice for new entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs of their level, and it was a very chill and informative interaction overall. This was also the third episode of a podcast I ever did as a host. The second half of the podcast is going to be mostly about business operations, how to run your own business, potential in scaling, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. So, what exactly is your role and what exactly do you do?
Within Textures, I'm an AI engineer, so which means that I create code and write code and create architectures for companies to transition to a more AI-based approach. If they want to automate processes and so on, I build those processes, I engineer them, and make an overall plan of them, and then actually go ahead and implement them.
Okay, so you are also in the common company that you have with Thomas and also Stefan that appeared before.
Exactly.
And you have specific roles in the company.
Yes.
How does an entrepreneur who has scaled his business to a certain level where he actually has cash flow and he has clients and he also has staff to manage, people who are doing their projects, and this also needs management. How do you do that? How do you manage everyone?
Everyone is a big word because usually it's quite still small teams doing this, which I think is also more efficient. But you have to be, as an entrepreneur, you have to be very versatile, I think. So I am an engineer that codes, but I am also a person that does workshop presentations or goes on sales meetings and so on. So you have to be quite versatile, and to manage people, I think you just have to give them quite some trust and quite regular checkups. So just see if they're doing all right, if they have any problems, have good references. So maybe work with people that your colleagues and so on have advised you to work with because they do a good job. That's also a very good advice, I think. And yeah.
As for context, at Textures is like this typical consulting model, right? We have like a set of partners, and the set of partners take on clients, and they have like their associates or people that are more junior that follow into the projects and work on these projects. And those teams, like naturally, project teams organize themselves. Like we have clusters of people that always work together, and that's just like something that forms naturally or organically, and those then work together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. How do you begin as an entrepreneur? Let's say that you have somebody who is interested in pursuing this career path, and he has absolutely no clue what to do. Is the answer networking and entrepreneurial events? Is it reading books? Is it... What is it?
I think it's actually just taking action, because you can read books and go to conferences all you want, but actually taking action, I think, is the first thing. So if you have an idea, it can be alone or with other people, which is also nice because then you can kind of support each other if you have other expertises. But if you have just like an idea or something like that, go ahead and test it. So give it a shot, but it doesn't have to be with massive investments or anything, just by basically just you acting as the service that you want to provide. So for example, let's say if you want to build like a customer service bot, when a client or someone, a user writes a message, you just answer like if you were the bot and see if this is actually something that people like and are going to use. And then after you've done this kind of validation, then you can actually start investing, finding people, going networking and so on.
So you're saying that the most important idea to figure out if a business idea has potential and could be scaled and work well is to do a lot of testing at the beginning.
Yes, or not basically, testing or just proving your idea or seeing that there is a market for the idea or seeing that people are actually excited or would want to use it, because else there's no reason of spending any more time on an idea that actually no one finds interesting or no one wants to use.
How quickly should you keep an idea and work towards it or abandon it for something different?
Depends on the idea, but I think as long as you try and test it and then based on the results, you can just evaluate, okay, this has potential or it doesn't. Really depends on the idea. I don't think you can put a time. If it takes you maybe 2-3 years to evaluate, maybe that's quite long. But I reckon there's some people that have taken that amount of time and have still managed to get away with it. But I think should be quite a fast process.
Fail as much as possible. The earlier, the better.
Exactly. And just do something. Just take action. Just find someone, build something, test it out, and then this has to take just in a few weeks. You have to be able to do this. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. As I said, you can properly just act as what you're building just to see the reaction of the users, and then once you find something that clicks, you can start automating, investing, and so on.
What do you think?
Pretty much what I already told before. I'm a big fan of lean startup. I'm a big fan of mapping out your hypothesis on which the business model builds on and testing those as cheaply as possible. Like, you have all these hypotheses. You have this hypothesis about does your product deliver value? Like, is it a pain point of your clients? Do you know who the clients are? Are those clients ready to pay for this? Are you able to finance it? Is it like technically feasible, etc.? A lot of hypotheses, and you need to test whether this hypothesis hold or not as cheaply as possible.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs make a lot of assumptions, and the biggest assumption is, hey, I can reach my client, right? And the clients are willing to pay that amount of money. Usually, like the technical feasibility of a product is something that the founders have a lot of expertise about. That's why they go into markets like this. It's usually, can this actually make money? And you want to test this as soon as possible and as cheaply as possible. Not after you build the product that you don't know if it's gonna make money, but ideal before that, or ideal in a very early version of this product. It's like the methodology or the method that's called like an MVP, a minimum viable product. Like, build something that is only good enough so you can test your hypothesis, and if the hypothesis is true, then move on, build the product or build the next iteration of the product. I'm also not a big fan of like, hey, now you know everything, and now you build for 6 months or a year straight without shipping new features or new versions of your product. I'm a big fan of like iterating. I'm a big fan of building, shipping to the client, getting feedback, learning from this feedback, building further, next iteration, get it to the client, learning from the client, etc. Like in a loop, right?
A key idea.
And that's even easier if you have like a software product, because this is something that you can iterate very quickly. I know that especially manufacturing heavy products, you need to design, and then you need to redesign, and the redesigning the restructuring of this manufacturing process is more and more difficult, right? Than in software engineering.
Absolutely.
But this holds true.
Okay.
Like test as much as possible, and in as many iterations as somehow economically feasible.
Okay. A key idea of what I understood from what both of you said was taking action. How much do you think that not taking action limits people? There's actually a great part of a podcast from Chris Williamson, I remember, where he said that scheduling to do the thing is not doing the thing. Organizing the thing is not doing the thing. Thinking about the thing is not doing the thing. The only thing that it is doing the thing is actually doing the thing. How much do you think that this unconscious but yet kind of purposeful idea many entrepreneurs have destroys them? That they need to have everything clear on their mind before they proceed with action, but they end up never proceeding.
I think 100%, like it 100% destroys it because as you start it, everything's going to change anyway. So you can't really plan it either way. So you just have to get going and then things will come in your path. You have to go around them. But it's just about doing the stuff because else you're never going to get there. So I really believe that. Yeah.
Digicast is a company of 35 people. It's like a quite big team already. And, I'm like a early founder of the company. I'm more in a management role, and still every second ticket of like customer support tickets runs by me.
Really?
So I really know the product. I really know like this is like the problem that the client has. This is like the output they expect. This is like the differences that our product currently makes. This is how our solution works technically. I can backtrace, or on a daily basis, I backtrace like the problems that our clients has through our current system every day. Multiple tickets, multiple support tickets that our clients raise about our product. I'm running this by myself and backtracing like the root of the problem. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I decided, hey, now I've learned over the last couple of years by taking action, by on myself, like learning from the client and knowing what are the bottlenecks of our system, finding a more, and this is like very naturally, right? Very naturally, I found like a more elegant solution of solving all of this.
How?
By knowing the problem.
Okay.
By taking action and actually knowing the problem. And now we're building like basically a version 2 of our product that's much more elegantly solved. We're also using a lot of large language model agents now, like a agent architecture, to have it more scalable. We know like the bottlenecks is, hey, we have a new country that we want to serve, whether that being Switzerland or Netherlands or Belgium or whatever, doing customs there is quite hard in our current iteration of the product. Throwing away the current code base, starting from scratch, and learning from all this information and feedback that we got from clients so far. And as a kind of someone who has like a say in the company, someone who is like not only leading the technical development team here, but also like working yourself, you get a lot of additional information and value in doing really elegant solutions, solving your problems.
Okay. How important is it that you recruit the right people, and how do you find out if the person you recruited is the right fit for
really
your company?
Difficult. Like I struggle a lot with like finding the right people. I think a lot of people seem very capable in the start when you start working with them. A lot of people, when you like interview them, they seem very capable, and only if like you actually start working with them, you see, hey, they are able to deliver or they are not able to deliver. I think a lot of people are really capable of writing nice CVs. I think what I maybe not emphasize enough is like doing background checks, talking to previous employers, checking whether they were satisfied and whether they're actually telling us the truth about why their previous contract ended. I think there's a lot for me to learn there, but I think there's a lot that I already learned in terms of this is not how to do it. We're looking for people that have a lot of like general intelligence. I think soon, this is not the bottleneck anymore if you have like ChatGPT and Claude and etc. But what we really need is people who are able to take responsibility, that are agentic. They can work without someone always looking over their shoulder and telling them exactly what to do. I think all of this micromanagement in a knowledge-intense company like Digicast or Textures as well just doesn't work. So you need a lot of really intelligent people. And now the question is like, how do you test for intelligence? In an interview that takes maybe 1 hour, maybe you have 2 or 3 interviews. But then also investing in recruiting is a lot of, it's a big time effort, because you don't want to only interview one person. You want to interview like 10 or 20 people and choose the best one. But then how do you in this time frame decide, hey, this is like a good person or not?
What I like in entrepreneurship is that it shares many commonalities with actual life. Meaning, for example, as you move on, from what I can imagine, the easier the practical things get and the more difficult the visionary things get. The more creative work that you have to do, the more difficult but also different your decisions need to be. Like when you're first an entrepreneur, usually you need to do everything by yourself. You need to do the sales by yourself. You need to communicate with clients by yourself. You need to
it's
find...
not only that you have to do everything by yourself, but you also have to build the structure to do stuff. I think if you're like really early stage and, you don't really see those kind of artifacts, but like organizations have like something we call organizational learning, where they learn how to do processes the right way, right? That can be like stuff like invoicing or how do you send out offers and make sure that the clients also sign the general terms and conditions and don't forget about this, to have like the right legal stuff in place, right? To know exactly, hey, this is the step-by-step thing that I have to do if I employ a new employee. You have to, do the contractual stuff with them. You have to do like all the proper onboarding with them. You have to do all the tax relevant things for them. Just having like a process in place in a company, an organization, is quite some learning experience. How you collaborate, how do you do meetings. You have to find some kind of sweet spot that works. And often there's like interruptions and you have to learn this from new. Change is always like difficult because of you have to renew this organizational learning that you have. And as an early founder in an early startup, you have not done this yet. And even if it's so straightforward to just cold call someone, yes, but like if you want to do this at scale, you need a proper CRM system set up. You need to have a proper structure to like follow up with your clients that you successfully cold called, etc. That you can actually sell stuff to. Like a cold call is not just ending with like a cold call, right? You have some kind of process
lead
behind.
the generation, yes.
Yeah, and
I think
I'm a big fan of like taking action and cold call from the very start, and then also your organization is small enough that you probably can manage and everything in your head, and you don't have to share this information that's in your head with like other people in the organization, because there are no other people or like very little other people.
Yeah, it comes down to very fundamental things, I think, which is just trial and error, like try and fail and keep on going and learn from that. So you always have to learn from that and just do stuff. That's what Thomas was mentioning as well. Just start calling people. If you don't know how to call or to do cold calling, just start calling.
Start doing the thing.
And then talk to people, maybe people that have been in the business for longer or stuff like that. Say, hey, this is what I'm doing. How can I improve? What have you learned? Read books. Everyone has already done what you're struggling with and what you're challenged with. So try and inform yourself and read the books appropriate that basically tell you how you can deal with this, but never stop actually doing it. And that's the best way you're going to learn anyways. Just
how important do you think reading books is? Because there seems to be like some entrepreneurs saying that they only learn from experiences and failures, and you see others emphasizing greatly how important reading books is. What do you think is the answer?
I think both for me. Reading books has helped. Experiences is also like a really really good aid to actually get where you want to go, because you actually get the real experience. You get the feeling, because reading books is just the first step. So reading books is important, but just the first step, because you get to not reinvent the wheel, right? Because there's so many problems or things like, okay, how can I do this? How can I start? Where do I start? Well, books will teach you, for example, the lean startup or something like that. It will teach you how these quick prototyping cycles work, how to test your idea the cheapest as possible. They will tell you how to do all of that. So that's a great first step, but then you actually have to go out there and experience it. So I think it's just a good evaluation of both. If I had to pick one though, I would just pick experiences over reading books, yes.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of like practically hands-on experience, like experiential learning.
The problem with books is again the same issue we talked about before. It can make you feel super productive, but unless you actually implement practically what you learned, then it's just kind of useless knowledge that you have. But again, I also do not agree with not wanting to learn from somebody else's mistakes, but there seems to appear something in the human species on how we find it very difficult to learn from other people's mistakes. Sometimes we have to make our own mistakes, and we can be super stupid about that. How did you learn from somebody?
I think the big difficulty with like learning from others' mistakes is every organization has their own nuances, right? Every organization works differently, has like a different set of people, different set of structures. There's no blueprint of anything that you can just like take and apply to an organization. There's people who try that. There's consulting agencies that do that a lot, right? Standardized products just implemented, but like then there's also like the thing, hey, would that actually work in this context or not, right? So a little bit of selective algorithm there. This like adopting a blueprint solution towards your particular organizational context is a lot of work, and that you can only learn if with experience.
Okay.
As I already mentioned, with like the Scrum teams that in our organizational context just did not work, right? Even if we tried, even if I read this in books and learned a lot about this in books, you just have to experience that. If you think a little bit about our experiences, the textures, on how that evolved, on how the assumptions that we had didn't work out, and we had just like changed, and now everything's working fine. For example, our billing model. In the beginning, we were selling fixed price products and fixed price developments, right? Tell them, hey, this is so and so much money, and we built this and that for you. But then with software products, they're not standardized, right? There's like no proper quality indication or quantification there. You have like a mismatch between, okay, is this like this requirement done or not done? Or reiterate with the client. The client is not super 100% happy with what you did because now the requirements changed a little bit. Is this still in the scope of the project or not? Even if it's legally not, we still want the client to be happy.
Yes.
Right? And then there's also like this mismatch of properly quantifying on how much value certain changes bring, and how much work it is to implement, right? And there's like, if you have a fixed price product, then the time that it takes to implement does not matter to the client, right? And they even urge you to like do the small stuff. And I think now we found like a good solution on this, like working more on hourly or sprint based, and that's like one organizational learning that you just like learn through experience, through doing mistakes.
And also I think that sometimes the clients don't even really know what they want, especially in a new field like AI, for example. So you really have to just do something and then see how they react to it, see what they think about the thing you've done, and then they will steer you in the right direction. But as we saw, as well within Textures. We were offering maybe products or services, and then we see, okay, what actually works better, and then you just start focusing on that little size of the pie. So you start quite broad, and then you see kind of what sticks most, what clients are very happy or very ask from you, and then you basically start specializing in that field because you see it really works and clients get a lot out of it.
That also is represented by a saying of Alex Hormozy regarding what exactly is intelligence in business. And he basically says that intelligence in business is the ability to adapt as quickly as possible to changes without having to fail again and again and again before you make the decision that needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
But how easy or difficult is it to identify these very specific points which once you fix unlock a whole other level and potential to scale?
I think coming back to your point on like how quickly you can change and implement new stuff, and I don't know what, I like this like whole change theory kind of literature. I think it's very difficult for people to change, or that people are very resistant to change, and you have to do this very evenly spaced, right? Not all the change at once, and not every day like new change. I think there's also a value in having stability, like changing something, then give the organization time to adopt and actually exploit the fruits of these changes, right? Before like doing the next change and the next change and the next change. I think that's particularly difficult for like early stage companies where there's like not a lot of structure yet, and you have a lot of changes that you have to do, and you can't really exploit the fruits of these changes. And especially if you then have employees and more stakeholders involved and more processes involved, those processes need to stabilize on these new changes and set of environment, right?
Yeah. And I also think you can't be too emotionally attached to something. Like, for example, if you build a product and you're really attached to it and you think, oh, it's going to work, but it just doesn't, then you kind of just have to let it go and say, okay, the market is not ready for it, or it's not what the market wants. So you have to be able to stay quite detached from it emotionally and be able to just move on with what actually works and what the clients, because that's what basically dictates what you can sell, is what the client wants to buy. That's what you have to sell. And if you build something they don't want to buy, then it's worthless. Okay.
All the elements in this conversation are also a matter of responsibility. You are both responsible for many tasks and management operations and leading the company forward. How do you develop a productivity system and a system of operations that works for you?
How are we getting productive? I think for me it's like mostly getting rid of distractions. I think like I just want to maximize my productive hours. I know that if I have like an hour where I'm like on my laptop and then I'm productive, right? So I want to like minimize the amount of time I'm not on my laptop. This involves like, how can I design my life to not spend too much time on doing groceries and cooking and all this kind of stuff. And also like social interactions, etc. I think that can be a lot of distraction. I think they're still super, super valuable. I'm a very extrovert person, but still there should be like some kind of a balance. And if you want to get stuff done, then optimize for working hours.
Your one thing, essentially.
True. Yeah. What I'm also, and that also involves like a lot of saying no to stuff, right? What I also think is important to me, and I think different people act differently with that, is I like change of scenery every couple of hours. If I'm working like on my laptop on like this and that desk, 3 hours later I need to change to a different desk. And we have like a nice setup in our new apartment now where we have like, I don't know, 5 different desks all over the apartment, and we can just like switch around and have like a change of scenery. Then you get up and walk a couple of steps and have like a little bit more refreshment. I think that's really good for my productivity, and I can also really recommend this. Also, like, have like a nice setup at home and in a different office, and maybe take your, 10, 20 minutes to go to the other place. I think that's productively or well spent time to just like get energy again flowing and change of scenery.
To add to that, I think I agree with everything Thomas said, but also like you mentioned management. So if you have people that are working with you on the project, so you're responsible for the project, but you have people working for you, let's say. What I'm also a very big fan about is basically the flexible hours. So basically focus on the goals and what they have to achieve more than focus on, hey, you have to work for 8 hours. I want to see you online for 8 hours and you can't leave your laptop. I prefer they can work from 3 a.m. to 8, I don't know, but or work an hour a day. I don't really care as long as they basically do what they have to do and do a good job at it. So leaving that kind of flexibility, I think that's because you don't want to like parent them around either. They're not your kids. There should be, as Thomas was mentioning, just general intelligence of being like, okay, this is my responsibility. I have to do this. And if it takes me an hour, then good for me because I have the rest of the day to do other stuff.
So the two key things I take away from what you both said is that to have a productive team, there are two main factors: to hire well people who have intelligence and are competent. And then
that's not what we said. We said this is like what we need in our organizational context.
Yeah,
I think there's different organizational contexts where you need different type of people, right? There's also a lot of jobs where you can go for more blue collar, cheaper labor that doesn't require like a high level of intelligence, that require maybe more supervision, more guidance, and if your company can provide this, perfect, right? This is like a different set of people that you need. And those people would also, like intelligent people in this context would get bored and also not the right fit. Just like in our organizational context, those kind of people are required. And I think it's a matter of deciding for your organization, hey, this is like the type of people that we need. And just more nuance.
Okay, so we add another factor here. So hire competent people, make sure they are in the right position, and then give them enough freedom to be able to work productively without destroying their work with unnecessary micromanaging, essentially.
Depends on the type of people, because some, as Thomas was mentioning, need that micromanaging because else they wouldn't do anything. But you want to hire the people that's have enough like self-control and intelligence to understand that we give them the freedom, but the freedom comes at some responsibility cost. So if you can't fulfill the responsibility, we're not giving you the freedom, and we're probably not hiring you at all.
Like this kind of paradigm of you saying, hey, I don't mind when people are working, like if they're working on the weekends or free in the evening, that's completely fine. As long as you design the whole organization around this, right? I think at Digicast or also at Textures, we just try to maximize our availability in terms of, hey, even if it's not my work hours where I'm productive, I'm still available via phone or via Slack or Teams or whatever. That's like just like the infrastructure around what you need if you design something like this.
Do you think this is a sacrifice an entrepreneur has to make to be able to answer the phone in times which could also potentially not be that convenient for him in order to move things forward and lead?
Of course.
This is a concept of work-life balance and work-life separation. And I think you can go this way of like completely separating, okay, this is like your 8 hours in office and this is like the free time afterwards. I myself, and I know this is like not for everyone, I'm more of like a shared pie, right? I'm working when I feel productive. I'm not working when I'm not feeling productive. I can use my time that I'm sitting in the train, for example, to have my laptop open and get some stuff done. I can, if I walk, I check my Teams. It's just like work is part of my life, and I'm more looking at how can I include both and make like harmony out of those both parts of my life, and less so to balance it or to separated strictly.
Mm.
Yeah.
That makes it also extremely difficult for me to track time. I have no idea how many hours a day I actually work, because it's like often just like it's so included, right? Everything I do is somehow connected to work, but on also work sometimes feels more like, okay, this is like a more a wellness kind of hour or day. That's also completely fine, right? I think. Yeah. For me at least,
it's like a lifestyle. I think that's also what you want to convey. Like for us also, because when you are an entrepreneur, I think you really have to love your job, because even if I'm on vacation, even if it's late at night, I really don't mind picking up a call. Obviously not a full-on 3-hour meeting call, but if it's something I can help with or some advice I can give, it's always nice, because it's part of my life. I love doing it, and it's just whenever you feel right, you work. Whenever you want to rest, you rest. It's more of it's just your life. It's just what you want to do. So you do it good, and you do it whenever you want to do it. And at the end, it turns out to be even more work than just a 9 to 5, but it's fulfilling. So I think that's what you have to go for.
Loving the thing. I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast with Magnus Carlsen, the currently most successful and best chess player in the world. Mm-hmm. And he was saying on how when he was a kid and learning how to play chess, there were many kids who did more homework than he did. There were many kids who bought more books and read more books about chess, but there was nobody else who had chess on his mind as much as he did. Even before he slept, even when he woke up, the first and last thing he would think about was chess. And I think that there is something very important here, because most people nowadays do not have this one thing. So how do you follow your dreams, and how do you manage failure when it happens to move forward again?
I mean, it's not, I think it's something that kind of imposes themselves to you. I think Thomas mentioned it, that I think we all, the people at Texture at least, would be quite unhappy in just like a 9 to 5 job, because we don't feel like we have enough control, enough leverage to actually, might sound weird, but to change the world, or to actually make a difference. Because what we want to do is just try something, go out there, talk to people, build something new, and see what the outcome is on the other side. And in a very structured company, you can't really do that. So we would just be quite unhappy and just, so it would just not be fulfilling. And so that's basically how we avoid it. And then some people just prefer having that, so that then they just forget about it at night. And then, but that's also fine. It depends what kind of person you are and what's fulfilling to you.
Do you agree to that?
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
What is the difference in doing that when you work with people who are in person and when they are remote? Is there a difference?
I don't really have experience with on-site people.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we started really hiring people when we already decided that Digicast is going to be a remote company. We started Digicast actually during COVID times. So naturally, we started home office and built around the remote culture.
Okay.
I think, I agree. I think definitely what I really like is having some times a year when you all come together, at least if you're a small core team and so on, and where you do things in person. Like I think if it was really only online, it would feel quite lonely, especially if you work from home, for example. Then you're just always kind of home alone, and it's not that fun. But I think it's not necessarily, it depends, because some people work better just in person when they have to be at the office, because they feel like, okay, now I'm working, and then when I go home, I stop working. But some other people are just like, oh, I'm on the train, I'm going to work. That's what works for me. I'm on the go. Now I have to do this and that. Like, it really depends on what works for you. And I think online companies are also have some quite big advantages. For example, they don't have very high fixed costs when it comes to offices and so on. And they also can hire from around, so they don't have the limit of, who's in the area and wants to work here. They can have, they have a bunch of advantages like that. That's the few that come to mind now. But
and also for you as a remote worker, if you have if you're working remotely, right, you're not bound to being in the office right now because now your coworkers are there. You can integrate work better in your life, right? Maybe you need to bring your kids into the kindergarten at 11, and you can just like do this quickly, right? You can just better integrate.
Yeah, schedule your meetings around your working day, and then you are also more happy because you can do that, and you actually have time to work and when you want. So I think it's it comes with some drawbacks, obviously, that you don't see them, and obviously if you're in a room with your coworkers just working all towards the same goal, you feel very motivated to actually get there. But it has advantages and drawbacks, and that's why I think it's really nice that we meet up. What is it, 3 times a year or something like that? Like we have retreats and have work times together, but also fun dinners and so on together, just to be with each other. It's a nice. I think it's also becomes more than a company when you're also in this kind of
you get a sense of also like loyalty to each other, etc.
Exactly.
It's like less like meetings, especially if it's remotely, can often appear very transactional, right? And I think those kind of retreats, they help us like actually becoming friends and like build loyalty and
nice
trusting
work
to each other.
environment. Yeah, nice work environment, which is honestly what is even nicer, because I've worked in places where honestly at the end I didn't have that good of a connection with the people working there, and you're like, yeah, it's not really fun. Like I would way rather work in a place where maybe I earn less or they lose something, I don't know, different, but I have a really good connection and there's loyalty that builds, and it's for the long run. You know it's for the long run. And even if it's not this, maybe it's another company, maybe something else, but it is for long, which is really nice.
With company loyalty, the first thing that comes to my mind is NVIDIA and how it got through some very difficult times by the employees having a lot of devotion and commitment and loyalty to the company. And do you think that also giving back to your employees is important? For example, with NVIDIA, the reason they stayed so loyal and didn't abandon Jensen when he went through some very difficult times was because he didn't hesitate to give them stock options. He didn't hesitate to pay them well above what other companies in the same field would pay them. And when the storm came, they stuck with him and didn't abandon him.
I think it's if like you like your employees and you think they work well, you should see them and not basically imagine them as just, oh, I give them money and they give me output, but you should see them as their own person, and you want to really like motivate them to do a great job. You just don't want this to be a transaction. You want to understand, hey, I want you to be here and I want you to give your absolute best and give your heart to this company, because it's not just my company, but it's also yours. And that's when companies really flourish, because even if you're in a hard time, but this is where for companies, but also sports teams and so on, if you just lose a game or in a storm and you're together, you can motivate each other and you still have a group to actually go forward and go beyond. So I think that's a very smart move from his decision, from him. And I think that's why they stayed, because they felt more valued and they just didn't feel like a number. They felt like I'm actually someone and I'm working for myself and giving myself better opportunities and so on.
It's a hygiene factor. Like if you, I don't think that employees are necessarily driven or motivated by money alone. But I think it's certainly a hygiene factor where if it's not a fair remuneration, they look for alternatives, or they feel it's unfair and they don't, and that can actually impede the motivation of employees.
Okay. So what do you have to say, and we will close with that relatively soon, about the new generation of entrepreneurs and especially the social media kind? What I'm referring to is especially the element of ego that appears to occur now with many business influencers or entrepreneur influencers, And what personally I get the most angry with is when they look down on people who do not have the same goals as them. For example, I am trading, making a lot of money. I have 3 e-commerce businesses who are all doing great. Anybody who doesn't do it is just worthless and lazy. And some people are not meant for it. And I find this ego very annoying. And you work in a setting where you have not been absorbed by that. What do you think about this? Because it is scaling up exponentially.
I just ignore it, like as easy as that. I don't think these people even really know what they're talking about, because I think if you're making videos explaining how well you're doing and how they can be doing so well, then you're probably not doing very well, because I would keep that quite secret, honestly, and I would not want competitors to just join my field. So I think they're making more doing those videos than actually doing anything on the side. And also it's just not really like, it can be some motivation if these people are really good and know what they're talking about, but usually
there's a course somewhere in the link.
There's a course somewhere, but again, if they just tell you how to do it, then that's probably because nothing else really works for them. And even if they brag about what they have, then good for them. But you should just ignore it and just do your own thing. And that's in general with what happens on social media. It just paints a picture of like, oh, everyone's so great, everyone has such a better life than me. But honestly, it's not. Like, you should just come down to reality, just chill off the social media for a little bit, and then you'll see that your life is not that bad, and you can make things happen if you want to make them happen.
Yeah. And also, like, waking up and listening to 2 hours of a podcast, taking an ice bath, and then meditating for 15 minutes and drinking your coffee black and having a 3-hour morning routine probably doesn't help you as much in your productivity as you think than if you just woke up, drank coffee, and started doing your work. I don't know if you agree to that.
Depends. I think it depends. Like, depends who you are. There's some people who routines work incredibly well, and if they have a 3-hour routine, then they're set for the day, and because maybe they're lazy, so they need the routine to have structure in their life. But from some other people, just waking up, drinking coffee, and getting to work is the better option. Is just you have to kind of test them out, get to know yourself, and that's it.
If a new entrepreneur had to listen to a single piece of advice that you give him, what would that be?
Do it. Like, get to work, like, do things. Whatever they are, just do things.
Take action.
Take action.
Like this experiential learning that we talked about, right? Reading books and waiting for the perfect time, or working in isolation until whatever you want to do is like at perfection. There's not going to be perfection. So just go out there, build your thing, test your thing, fail, build the next thing.
Meet people. Like, it's really like a domino effect.
Yeah,
I think.
So
like,
experiential learning, take action. I want to emphasize that.
Yeah, it starts small all the time. It starts with something that you're thinking of the goal. You're like, this is never going to happen. And then you just start very small. Start with one task. Talk to one person. Go to your closest connection, which is maybe family, friends, university, research institutes, wherever you find. Just talk to people, see what they have to offer. What can they do for you? What can you do for them? Build a little prototype, test it out, just call a company, just say, hey, I'm wanting to do this for you. Would this be useful or not? Can I just come in for free and I'll make this for you and you give me feedback? And then do you have any other companies that could be interested? You just kind of start doing something, and then something will pop out on the other side. And with whatever that is, then you continue and you go forward, which is insane because a lot of people just think about the end goal and say, this is never going to happen. And of course, if you just think like that, it won't. But if you do there will be an outcome, and then you can continue with that. It's a long process. We've been 2.5 years in the process now. So at first...
Also, you have to account for your failures and all your past experiences, which probably shaped your success today.
True.
I think it's
But,
important to also
yeah.
note, because you said, hey, those ego influencers talk down on people who don't have the same values, etc., as them. Just as a nuance, just as like something that also has to be said, not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. I think
Mm-hmm.
life can be so much easier and happier if you don't.
True.
I think if you sign up for entrepreneurship, you sign up often for a lot of work. You sign up for a lot of anxiety on the stakes that you have in the business, and the stakes that your employees have in the business. You also think about their income and their families, etc. And it's not a guaranteed way to success. I think entrepreneurship has a lot of success factor that is just random. I think there's just a lot of luck involved. If you get lucky, fine for you, but there's also a chance that you don't. And I think you can expose yourself to a little bit more luck in doing a lot of experiments and getting a more methodological approach on approaching entrepreneurship, like I said with Lean Startup, etc. Because then you can test and experiment a lot, and with every experiment, your chances of actually hitting the jackpot gets a little bit higher, but it's still not guaranteed. And
so you gotta love the
usually quite
process.
low.
Yeah, you don't do it for the money or anything. You just do it because it's way more
Your
fulfilling
expected startup
than-
fails.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, what would be your advice to somebody who is stuck and has reached a specific level of cash flow, or let's say he has built a team, but he seems to not be able to move forward further than that? So potentially he wants to scale, or he wants to take things to the next level from being a relatively good entrepreneur to more. What would you say to him?
I mean, it really depends. This is very general comment, depending on what he sells, how he sells it, how he wants to scale. I mean,
Whatever his bottleneck is.
Yeah.
I think identify your bottleneck and mobilize the resources to fix this bottleneck. And if this bottleneck is not fixable, which also is like something that can happen, because I don't know, you see, hey, I have a great product and I scaled it now in the German market, for example, and you see, hey, I now tried to scale it also to the US, to Italy or wherever, and it doesn't work, then maybe it's not meant to scale. And maybe if it's not meant to scale, maybe you should move on and do something
try
differently.
something different. Exactly. Yeah. Just
Okay.
see where the opportunity is. You have to be very good at navigating the market, the clients, what everyone wants, and just picking out, cherry picking where you see, okay, here, there's a great opportunity. Let me follow this. And if it's not meant to be, don't be too pushy. If you see something is just not working out, there's no demand for it. Stop putting time. Stop saying, okay, I can make it so much better. I can continue doing it. If the main idea behind it, the main selling point is just not working in one country or from the get-go, just let it go, find something else and follow that.
Okay.
Try something different.
Okay. And is that also a conversation of thinking back and saying, from every single action I took last year, what was the one action that if I implemented more, it would bring the most results? The 80-20 rule.
From last year. So
In the past, like
past.
what can I think of as the one action that really changed things, and do more of that and less of the other?
I'm going to be redundant here, but I'm saying taking action, doing stuff.
Okay.
It's quite broad, but I think it counts for just talking to people, meeting people. I was very happy that when we started this, I met Thomas, and then we had an idea. We built something small, but then it didn't really work out, so we parted ways. And then before I left the city, Maastricht, where we were living in, I called him up and I said, hey, I'm still very interested in this topic of entrepreneurship. I want to do more about it. Let's have a coffee, let's grab. And I think that put him back in his mind when he contacted me a few months later by saying, hey, I have this idea, we should probably work together, and I think that just like taking action, if you want to achieve something, just think strategically, okay, what's the first tiny step I can do? Who do I know that is actually kind of doing what I want to achieve? And just go talk to them. How can I get there? So just in general, it's taking action. And then depending on what you want, it's different. But just doing that, yeah.
All right. All right. Any closing statements?
I don't know.
Thanks for having us.